Call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for September 5, 2018. The first order of business we have, actually, roll call. Can I start with the roll call?
Commissioners Rothman?
Here.
Savone?
Here.
Bowman?
Here.
Bradsky?
Here.
First order of business is to consider approval of the June 6, 2018 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have no presentations this evening, so we'll move on to unfinished business. We have one item of unfinished business. That is PW 01090518. To consider a motion to adopt ordinance number 2158, amending Chapter 132, Sewers and Sewage of the Code of the Township of Abington to add new Article 34 titled Mill Road Sewer District.
So moved.
We actually are going to go over to the director. Do you have any information to share with us on this 090518?
This is are these working tonight? This is the new sewer district for the 7 houses on Mill Road that we had discussed last month. So this would be for the project that went out to bid that's also on the agenda tonight.
Any of the committee have any questions on this?
Public comment.
Any members of the full board, any questions on this? Any public comment? Oh, didn't see you over there. Sure.
So
Commissioner Klein.
We're using the same language that we used in the last couple sewer districts.
I will defer to the solicitor for that.
The most recent one that we did, this is the
Same
same
thing.
language as that one. We've
Stockton
sang
Road.
the last couple, I can't remember if we've done one here or two, but it's, the language is identical.
Right, the last two we did were Old Welsh and Stockton Road, so
Yeah, I don't remember Stockton, but it's
Old
what
Welsh
we
is
did
the
for
same.
Old
Okay.
Welsh.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Go back to the audience. Any comment? All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve PW 01090518? So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
You can just call for a vote. The motion was already moved and seconded. You don't have to, there's no motion to approve it. Just say, call for a
Okay,
vote.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have several items of new business this evening. First is PW 02090518, to consider a motion to award the Mill Road Sanitary Sewer Project, contract number 152 to N. Abenizio Contractors in the amount of $280,512, and authorize and fund the Mill Road Sewer District Project from the Sewer Capital Fund balance in an amount not to exceed $375,000. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Comment.
Any comments from members of the committee? Comments from the full board? Commissioner Klein again.
Director Montgomery, can you explain the difference between what's being allocated out of the capital fund and what the bid was? There's a difference close to $100,000. Why are we keeping that much in reserve for the project?
We were keeping the extra on reserve to pay for the engineering fees that are associated with the project, as well as the solicitor's fees. So the number of 375 is higher than what we need, but it's kind of just in case, and then whatever's left over will go back into the fund.
Any other comments or questions from the full board? Any comments or questions from the public? With that said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on. PW03090518, to consider the motion to approve resolution number 18038 of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, Bureau of Clean Water, for a plan revision for new land development for the Abington School District, Abington Senior High School. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments from, Mr. Wrigley, do you have any comments to add for the board?
This is basically the planning module application that'll go to Pennsylvania DEP for the sanitary sewer, additional sanitary sewer that will be discharged to Cheltenham Township, actually.
Any other comments from the committee? Comments from the full board? Commissioner Klein, I'll just keep coming back to you, my man.
So the EDUs that were allocated for this project were sufficient to what the school district had already?
More than sufficient.
No, but I'm saying, did DEP allocate additional EDUs to this project, or they already?
They have been on the connection management plan with Cheltenham Township for several years. So the project's already been allocated EDUs.
They have them in reserve. They have the EDUs in reserve.
Yes.
It's not picking up additional EDUs.
No, it's already been allocated, and DEP has already approved that in a sense, so.
Okay, thank you.
If you have no further comments, we'll now call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, PW04090518, to consider a motion to award contract number 151, influent pump station generator to Brendan Stanton, Inc., doing business as BSI Electrical Contractors for the base bid of $126,100 and alternate A of $36,900 for the total amount of $163,000, and to authorize the President of the Board of Commissioners and the Township Secretary to execute all appropriate documents. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the full board? Commissioner Vahey.
I'm curious what this device is. Not really questioning expenditure, I want to know what the device is.
This is a automatic emergency generator transfer switch for the wastewater treatment plant, influent pump station, and what we call the screening facility. So in case of a power failure, this will automatically supply power to the main pumps for the plant.
It's located at the plant on Fitzwatertown Road?
Yes, it's right next to what we call our influent pump station building.
Yeah, so what's the influent pump station? I don't know what that is.
We have an interceptor coming to the plant that's 30 feet deep in the ground, and the pumps have to lift the wastewater up into the tanks for treatment.
Okay,
So we
thank you.
have 3 large pumps there that do that work.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Thompson.
How many bids did we get for this?
We received 1 bid for this project,
Just one bid?
1 bid. It's a very
that-
small project, that's probably why.
Wouldn't we normally rebid for a sole bid?
Not necessarily, the bid price came in below what my estimate was.
Okay.
And the other contract, there's 4 contracts, 4 bids that were picked up. One was a sales company. The other 2, one of the other companies could not afford the bonding limit. This contract exceeded his bonding limit, so he couldn't bid. The third company was just too busy. There's a lot of work out there right now, and they were just too busy to actually bid on the project. But we actually had 4 people interested in the project. BSI has also worked for us in the past, and they are actually our emergency electrical company in case anything happens at the plant. So they've been there before and done work for us before at the plant.
Manager Manfredi, yep.
Just also want to note that this was a requirement by PADEP because of the circumstances surrounding how that plant operated, correct?
Yeah, they didn't specifically state it in a document, but if there's a deficiency, you have to rectify the deficiency. So.
It's a requirement, long story short.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the board or from staff? Any public comment? With that said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to PW 05090518, which is to consider a motion to approve resolution number 18-039, adopting an updated intergovernmental agreement, IGA, for the preparation of a water quality improvement plan for the Wissahickon Creek watershed. And do I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Yes. George and I will take this as a team. George is the Township's representative on this watershed committee, and it was a collaborative effort with the other municipalities that you see listed in the documents in here. Executive summary would be this. We have been a member of this organization. An ordinance was passed that had a date that this was funded for and sunsetted in August of this year. The group needs more time and needs more money to function and operate to complete its mission. So they circulated letters, and again, all of this is in your packets, but they circulated letters, and we demanded greater explanation, which their council did give us. But they also wanted to extend this beyond what the ordinance said. The ordinance said you can extend it for up to 1 year. So we were originally looking at doing this as an ordinance, but council looked at this as well, and we can do it by resolution. Long story short, it was set to sunset by ordinance. The only way it can continue is by resolution of the board granting that extension and also to provide additional funding. George, anything you want to add?
I guess for the new board members, probably 2 years ago, I think I kind of presented it before we got involved with the, what they call the partnership. DEP and EPA proposed a very stringent limit on total phosphorus. It involves not only the wastewater treatment plants in the entire Wissahickon Creek watershed, but also what they like to call the stormwater MS4s. So in essence, every municipality, every wastewater, there's 4 wastewater treatment plants, we're all involved in this investigation to counter what EPA is trying to require all the municipalities to adopt. I think it was in 2015, DEP said there's a new law that was passed a few years before that where the municipalities can group together to investigate the situation, propose an alternative plan to EPA and DEP. And at this point, we have collected a lot of data from last year. The data's been being analyzed right now. We expect to have what they call the Water Quality Improvement Plan in place and approved hopefully early next year, and that will be sent to EPA and DEP. So most of what we're afraid of is most of 2019 will be, I don't want to say negotiations with DEP and EPA, but that's kind of the way it has happened, you know, in the past. So.
Commissioner Gillespie?
So basically, it's an alternative to their stringent rules and regs that they came out with a couple years ago. I was looking at, read this pretty thoroughly here, and it says approximately $184,700 remaining from various funds to pay for this. What does that mean, various funds?
For this,
The anticipated project cost estimated $170,000. The total bid sum totals $163,000. There was approximately $184,700 remaining in the various.
that's the generator. I think that's the generator information you're looking at.
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, sorry. Okay.
The next page is,
And yep, alternative plan to the EPA. Another thing, all throughout here, it uses acronyms, and it's hard for people sometimes to understand these acronyms. So I know there's a lot of big words that come along here.
I
Except
tend to- I
EPA,
tend
they
to
all know
try
what
to
the,
put
they
words
know
there
what the
first.
DEP is, and they know what the EPA is, I hope.
There's a lot more behind all this, believe me. This is the short version of everything.
I get it, okay? And I know it's been 2 years, so you just said you have done quite a few things, so you're getting ready to present this to the EPA and the DEP.
A lot of work that's been done. We're getting close to the end of the work. There's been more expenses. I mean, most of the funds that have been expended is for legal and engineering consulting that we hired. There's been a lot, especially with the treatment plants. EPA and DEP came to the 4 treatment plants early on, the end of December, January, December 15, or early 2016, and wanted the 4 treatment plants to achieve this total phosphorus limit immediately, like in 1 month, 2 months. So a lot of the initial fees that went for legal were just completely unexpected. We had no idea. I mean, DEP or EPA could send you a letter, and all of a sudden you're scrambling, doing something. So at the very beginning of that 2-year process, we were involved with a lot of legal work.
And weren't we a bit ahead of the game anyway in things that we'd already done in our treatment plant?
Our treatment plant is probably one of the more advanced ones. We have
I thought-
tertiary treatment, which is a third step in our treatment. So we have a lot more flexibility in what we can do and not do. But still, to reach that extremely low limit of phosphorus, we'd have to do something. We'd be spending quite a bit of money to do that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Klein?
So what is the timeline to come up with a final alternative TFDL proposal to EPA and DEP?
We're hoping to try to get something done like February
February of 2019?
2019. February, March at the latest, to have it all together so we can submit it to the agencies.
And have we been monitoring, has the group been monitoring or the consultants been monitoring other TMDLs have been mandated by EPA on other watersheds, I guess more relevantly in the northeastern part of the United States?
A lot, or a significant portion of the study group was put together by the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. Temple University has done a lot of the work, and part of that effort was to research other agencies, other areas in the country, actually not just in the state, but in the country, to find out what the historical basis is for this. Unfortunately, each watershed is unique in its own self. So you can use generalities, but you can't really take those generalities and apply it across the board to everyone. So part of this alternative TMDL was this group saying to EPA, you can't just take that number and apply it without any good science behind it. So this group is going after the science and trying to document an alternative. Right? The word is alternative to it.
And is it still the goal of the group is to try to collectively calculate out the mitigation processes so that all of the 16 municipalities, if I remember correctly,
17 are participating, yes.
17 and
Yeah.
4 wastewater treatment plants, correct?
Correct.
So out of those groups, I think I remember the early on the theory was that they would try to take advantage of the mitigations and cost out those mitigation process regardless of whether they were in their municipality or not. Is that still?
It's exactly what you're saying, but greatly expanded on that.
Okay.
The approach, generally the approach was a scientific approach. That's kind of why we had Temple University involved in it. They weren't going at the process to say phosphorus is the issue. They were looking at it holistically and finding out, without any preconceived notions, they went at it purely on a science basis. It appears that it's not going to be a priority for phosphorus. It's other constituents are more prevalent in the creeks. Part of the study, has revealed that there's a lot more dynamics going on in the stream than just one item, phosphorus, which is kind of what we knew and what DEP knew, but you have to have the science and the investigation to support all that.
And one last question about, is Philadelphia Water Department still involved?
Yes, they are very actively involved.
Kind of pulling a China shop early on.
Their representative has been extremely valuable to the group. I mean, they have one person that's dedicated to their portion of this type of work, and he's an excellent, I don't know what his title, his background is, but he's really been very, very helpful for the entire group, so.
Commissioner Vehy?
So the partnership will develop an alternative to MDL. Does that come back to this board for approval, or how do we accept or adopt that?
Yes, it will. Once the water quality improvement plan is constructed through the group, every municipality is going to have to review it, consider it, and approve it. That's what DEP and EPA are going to be looking for.
So that happens before the plan goes to DEP?
Yeah, oh, yes,
Okay.
before it goes to them,
Thank you.
yes.
Still? Yeah. Commissioner Gillespie again.
A comment, again, acronym, total maximum daily load, is that what
Very
that is?
good, yes.
But people out there don't know that, and we're talking TMDLs and IRSs and whoever knows what, and people don't understand what a TMDL is. So now and then, maybe we should just give a little, and then you can say the acronym.
Wissahickon, for information, if the people were interested, Wissahickon Valley Watershed Association.
Yes.
And it's part of
WV.
the management group, and they have lots of things on their websites to kind of help
Well, then
the
that's
public
good.
understand this type of thing.
Because it's a lot of them. One other thing, though, and I know this isn't a sewage treatment plant, but just the streams in general. I'm having a difficult time with my folks. When they cut their grass, they leave it in the street, and I keep putting out messages, but nobody's paying attention. So it has something to do with it. Doesn't help, I know.
Everything that goes into the stream affects the stream quality.
I'm trying, and I'm sure everybody else is here, too. I don't know what to do.
Once you see this water quality improvement plan, it may take a couple meetings to really understand it, because it is very complex. I mean, I'm not a stormwater person, I'm more of the wastewater.
You're a
end,
wastewater,
and
yeah.
I've learned an awful lot from this. I mean, it is a very detailed, complex issue. So.
Okay, thanks.
Always remember, when it comes to acronyms, Google is your friend. Manager Manfredi, here for more to add?
Just very clearly, want to make clear, the question was asked by Commissioner Klein, and Mr. Wrigley responded March of 19. But just so everyone understands that this resolution, if adopted next week and recommended here this evening, will approve the agreement through March 2020 and up to $15,000.
Any other questions or comment from the board? Any public comment? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving swiftly onward to PW 06090518. Consider authorizing execution of snow and ice agreement for the next 3 years. Is there a motion? Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
What's the general term and course of the term of a snow and ice agreement?
Your mic.
What's the normal course and term of such an agreement?
Normal course and term is anywhere, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 5 years.
What's our current agreement?
It expires, this is a renewal of the 3-year term.
When does it expire?
Like first or something like that.
I'll tell you in a second. I don't have the contract in front of me, but my guess is it expired September 30th or October 1.
Fair enough.
Any other questions or comments from the board or staff?
One more comment.
Commissioner
And
Gillespie?
Then I'll be quiet. I'm all for
worries.
this for sure, because our township does a great job cleaning our streets, but if they can't get out on the other streets, we're in trouble, so I'm all for this.
Commissioner Bowman?
This is with PennDOT?
Correct. This is the standard snow and ice removal contract. As outlined in the agreement, I may as well just go through this, that it's for reimbursement services. You got it, Ange?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is Montgomery County. This is just for Easton Road,
Okay.
nothing else. PennDOT's a separate agreement. That's a 5-year agreement. This one's a 3-year.
How are you, my friend?
What's that?
That was just me saying hello.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you.
No introduction, no anything, you know? You came up here, figured we should have some fun.
Anything else?
Any other questions on this topic, or preferably no others for Angelo?
There will be no snow this year.
There will be no snow. If we could vote on that, that would be, I'm sure, unanimous. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any public comment? Noting that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our final item, PW 07090518, consider a motion to accept the lowest responsible bid and authorize the township manager to enter into a contract with DeGiulio's Clothing and Footwear to provide uniforms and accessories services to the per diem union employees. Do we have a motion? What's that? I don't have that language here. Is that?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments from the committee? From the full board? Any comments from the public? Seeing that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. We'll now move on to public comment. If there's any public comment on any general public works matter, please step forward, provide your name and address, remember the 3-minute speaking rule.
Microphone's still too short. We're getting there, but they must have a longer end on this. These tall guys that are up here aren't even close to it. Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So I missed when the high school was here, but my question was somewhat peripheral anyhow. I wanted to know the extra addition that's going on the high school is going to have a ton of stormwater, and that stormwater is now going to go almost surely into the Tookonie. Now, we've just had people testifying here before you and testifying before the Planning Commission at the BET hearing that they are, again, in danger of flooding. We had to request to get the creek cleaned out when we had all those rains, one right after another. Their homes are in jeopardy. So continuing to put more into places that are already full isn't, you know, you're improving, you say you're improving the stormwater on the site where you're building, but it's unimproving somebody else's property. So do we know where that's going, and how is that being handled, and how is that being calculated?
Is the question, what is the plan for the stormwater with the addition to the high school?
Right.
Do we have any information on, Commissioner Spiegelman appears to have some information.
This is actually all been covered a number of times, but per MS4 requirements, the school district is required to detain all that water in the new basins that they'll be building underneath various fields. So, in theory, not only will there be no increase in runoff from the school district property, there should actually be less than there is under the current configuration.
Thank you, Commissioner Spiegelman.
So may I just ask a follow-up on that? So normally the basins collect it, but then they slow release it to the streams? They're not slow releasing it? They're simply collecting it?
If there's a need for some follow-up conversation, let's handle that afterwards. It sounds like we're getting pretty granular at this point, so.
Well, that's actually an understanding of the actual question that I asked, which is that it's going to go into the Tookonie. So the answer sounded like, no, it's not, we're containing it in basins. But if those basins are slow releasing to the Tookonie, you are adding to what's in the Tookonie now. So we have a pretty big, I think it was 17 EDUs, so it's the equivalent of 17 houses in the sewer system. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that the footprint is the equivalent of 17 houses, okay? But we have a pretty substantial increase in the area that might not absorb. Maybe we don't. Maybe it was all concreted and we're just building on what was already concreted. But that's my question. And so the question is, if it's slow releasing into the Tookonie, do we have an idea what the increase in stormwater flow is? That was my question.
Really?
Because,
Okay.
yeah, because
Go
this
ahead.
is located in Ward 11. Very brief science lesson. So, when rain falls, if it falls on something pervious, like, the grass or the woods, it goes right into the ground. If it falls on something impervious, it shoots off until it gets to somewhere pervious. And then, in huge rainstorms, you have a lot of impervious coverage. That's why you have flooding, because you have all this extra water getting shot off onto the only areas that can absorb it. These basins detain the water and they slow release it into the ground once the big rain event is complete and the ground is no longer being overwhelmed by the giant rainstorm. So it is not like going right into the Tookonie by any means.
It's just one of many reasons it's fun to spend time with Commissioner Spiegelman if you have any desire to do so.
Well, I think he needs the other part of the lesson, and that is.
Okay,
that what
let's
happens- Well,
get back on point.
let me just say, because this is important, okay? that I-
Hold on. Commissioner Klein?
So the speaker, who has come to our meetings numerous times and has been through this, is mixing terminology. The EDUs spoken about before are related to effluent, that is sanitary discharge.
I
So
did
from-
explain
Yeah,
that.
I'm speaking. As the speaker,
I
you were
explained
speaking.
Go on.
So we're mixing two different terms. The
I'm not
effluent, the
mixing it. You
EDU
didn't hear
is
me.
effluent, and that doesn't go into the watershed. That goes into the sanitary sewer, which is what Mr. Wrigley had spoken
I
about.
said that.
The stormwater management, as Commissioner Spiegelman talked about, is all covered in our stormwater ordinance and is mandated by DEP and has been approved by DEP. And the discharge is mandated also. It's not just an arbitrary number, and I think Director Montgomery can speak to that more specifically, but they are highly regulated, and stormwater management systems do work, and it is a fallacy to believe that if a property does not have stormwater management and now has stormwater management is somehow going to adversely affect the watershed. That's just not true and baseless.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Klein. Listen,
So that's,
hold
but
on a
that's
second.
not true.
Hold on a second.
But that's,
Okay.
so first of
We're not
all,
here for you to tell me or
it
tell
was
him who. what's-
incorrect
this
what
is
he
time
said
for you-
I said. That was not true.
I understand this is my first
said-
time up here with you. If you want to have some fun, we could do that. Otherwise, I was going to give you an opportunity to add any other comment you have because we're well past your
Okay.
3 minutes.
So what happens is when the water releases slowly, it wets the stream, which is already then wet when it rains and not absorbable. Ask the people who live along the streams.
Thank you
Okay.
for your comment.
So, yes, so the other question that I would like to back up with, Commissioner Gillespie said 1 page per issue. When
Please
we
be quick.
haven't-
I gave you a chance to go on after we had a 6-minute, I've been timing it, discussion.
How much
So-
was his, where he actually misrepresented what I said? How much of that, my 6 minutes, was his?
Let's have your next comment and then we'll be done. Let's go.
Because I consider that slander, when you misrepresent and you have an opportunity to let me correct it, but you don't, that's intentional slander.
You had your chance to speak. Someone else spoke.
Okay, all right, so 1
I'm giving
page
you
per
another
issue,
chance.
thank you.
Yep. Any other comment from the public? That was the fun first meeting for me there. Nice conclusion. All right. I move to adjourn. Any second?
It's called to order the Administrative Code and Land Use Committee meeting for September 5th, 2018, and may I have a roll call, please? Here.
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 First, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 6, 2018 Administrative Code and Land Use Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Minutes have been moved and seconded. Any comments or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Tonight, we have one item of unfinished business. This is ACL 1. Consider a motion to adopt ordinance number 2160, repealing Chapter 62, Building Construction, Article 1, General Standards, Section 2, Amendments at subsection G, and creating and enacting Chapter 7, Board of Code Appeals, including Exhibit A, Chapter 7, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Thompson, did you have a comment?
I just want to clarify on this. So when the code changes in October, when we go from IBC 2009 to IBC 2015, this committee will carry forward with that code change?
That is correct. There's no indication that the Board of Building Code Appeals will be removed from any updates.
Okay, thanks.
And Solicitor Clark, did you want to give a brief explanation of this? I know you mentioned it before when we advertised it, statutorily required, or Manager Manfredi.
It is, as I did mention before, Mr. Sanchez, it is statutorily required. This is in a sort of a limited area of when someone who is aggrieved by a determination of the building code official can appeal to the Board of Building Code Appeals instead of having to take their appeal to Common Pleas Court. We are mandated to have one of these, and with the most of this has been brought up that we didn't have one by the high school project.
Thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Commissioner Klein.
And when was this mandated? Recently, or has it been part of the UCC for a while?
It's been part of the UCC for
So
quite
it's
some
something
time.
that the township didn't enact it early on, and we opted in for the UCC.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Spiegelman.
Yeah, I guess Manager Manfredi might be closer for you. Other municipalities in the area, are any of them have a board of code appeals?
If they've enacted the code, they're required to have it, frankly. Some partner with others, some use independent hearing officers. But I don't know which specific municipalities do in fact have it.
Doesn't matter, because my mic wasn't on, so that question didn't even happen. Never mind.
All right. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Klein.
Commissioner Spiegelman, I do know of at least 4 or 5 municipalities that have code review boards in not the immediate area, but neighboring and close by municipalities in Montgomery County.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein.
Commissioner Myers.
If this was addressed, I apologize. The committee, is the committee going to be made up of, I see the criteria, but are we looking for township residents that meet this criteria? Is that the idea? Or is the idea to have someone not connected to the township?
No, I believe this is intended to be township residents.
Okay.
Yes.
So-
Or business owners.
So if you're unable to fill the criteria, the qualifications, what do you, for maybe you can 2 out of 3, or what do you do?
I think as I mentioned the last time, if you're unable to fill someone with a particular role. What several municipalities do, as long as they are meeting the minimum requirement, they leave those seats vacant until someone meets the qualifications, or you can just appoint someone who doesn't have those qualifications, and then you normally end up getting waivers from whoever appears in front of you.
So
But
the qualifications are not mandatory?
Well, it is what they are required, but if you're unable to fill it, and as you can imagine, with some of these qualifications, depending on the size of your municipality, you may not have all of those things here. I would think maybe in Abington, with as many residents as we have, we'd be able to meet all this criteria. But if you don't, you can move forward without it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? Members of the audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. I still think this is a terrible idea, and you're saying that a lot of communities don't have it. We only know 4 or 5 that have a specific, and they have to have some semblance or something of it. I think some other proposals might be reasonable other than what we have here. As I spoke before, I think we have many situations. We have had contractors blatantly violate our rules. So to have an appeal board when they violate the rules that they could go to and say, is this okay? Or even before they violate them and say, is this okay? I'd like to violate them. I am very concerned about this. And if we have other options in other communities, I think it would serve the residents to be able to hear those. And I see you agree with me by your smile. Thank you.
Oh, no, I was amused.
Any other comments from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. The motion carries. Next, we have new business. We have ACL 2. This is to consider a motion to approve the application for a grant for the Ardsley Wildlife Sanctuary Basin retrofit and stream restoration in the amount of $146,752.50, and I so move.
Second.
And I believe there's a explanation from Director Montgomery.
There is. So you've heard about this project many times, and just to give a quick background on it, the township did apply for a $300,000 grant from DCED last year. We only got awarded $100,000, so we are trying to find ways to get the rest of the money that we need to do the project. Earlier this year, we applied for a NIFWIF grant in the amount of $250,000, and we were declined that grant. So this grant has opened up through the Delaware Watershed Conservation Fund, and it is a 1-to-1 match. So basically, we can use the money that we already got from DCED and our other grants, and then we can ask for that amount of money from this Delaware Watershed Conservation Fund. So our match amount that we have available to us is different than what's in the agenda. It's actually $15,000 more, so it would be $161,752.50 that we could use as our match amount. So that's the amount that we would want to request from this Delaware Watershed Conservation Fund. And the Wissahickon Valley Watershed Association would be assisting the township with this grant application.
Great. Thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Any comments from commissioners? Seeing none. Any comments from the public? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We will now take public comment on matters of administrative code and land use.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. I recall being here, I think January 11th, I think it was, when you approved BET to be able to go to the Planning Commission after after going to talk to the residents. BET didn't go to the Planning Commission once. They went again and again and again. So after their first meeting with the residents, they amended nothing. After the second meeting that was supposed to be with the residents, they canceled the second meeting. They didn't make a single budge. They took the same proposal and proposed it again to the Planning Commission, not an ounce of good faith. Then they went again to the Planning Commission. And had they, in good faith, been planning to move their project to where they expected it should be and get a reasonable answer, the answer would have been no. The answer at the first Planning Commission was no. That's why they just moved it on without any answer. The second Planning Commission, it was no. They wouldn't have been in favor. Now they've had the third Planning Commission meeting, and while it ended up a split vote, it actually was a no. And let me just get my sheet for a second.
It's coming out of your 3 minutes. Walking. I'm just kidding. You can have 5 extra seconds.
So you had
Mischaracterize the proceedings.
of the planners, okay, that went 4 and 4, one of them changed his position. So it would have been 5 and 3. And one of them who voted yes actually spent a great deal of time saying why she wasn't ready to move it forward and didn't think it should be moved forward. But at the last minute, when she saw the votes weren't there, she voted yes. So we actually had a 6-2 situation with the Planning Commission. So again, even at 4 and 4, they could not agree to move it forward. And that was 16 speakers who came out passionately against. 106 came by petition. 130 had come prior by petition. 500 were represented from Rydell Park, and 4 planning commissioners, as well as a letter from the EAC, okay, and a letter from the residents to have it dismissed. That was against 4 people that came out to speak for it, and 4 planning commissioners ultimately. So the overwhelming majority is not being heard by the people who represent us. And when our planners are the ones that you appoint, do not represent the people that they are there to serve and that you are there to serve, something has to be done. And how and why, please tell me how they were able to go so many times when they were approved
Your time
to
has
go
expired.
once.
Thank you. for
Can
your
you tell
comments.
me how they were able to go that many
I
times?
don't even know where to start with all the mischaracterizations there. Mischaracterizations, so your time's expired.
Well, could you explain them then? Explain the mischaracterizations that you see?
I sure can, but not to somebody who just perpetuates mischaracterizations to the detriment of the residents. So
There's no way, there is
Okay,
no way
thank
to
you. Your
resolve
time has
those
expired.
things unless you allow it. So that happens because you allow that.
Thank you for your mischaracterizations. Your time has expired. Any other members of the audience? Hearing none, I move we adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Good evening, everyone. I want to call the Public Safety Committee to order for September 5th, 2018. And can I have a roll call, please? Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Thank you. Now we'll consider a motion to approve the minutes of the June 6, 2018 Public Safety Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have our minutes. We do have a presentation from Chief Malloy this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Just a quick announcement, nothing to do with speed humps or stop signs. This is a public service announcement. We had an arrest the other night on a routine car stop that involved hundreds of baggies of Fruit Loops, brownies, and other marijuana-laced treats, and other baggies filled with marijuana. it was not an Abington resident. The suspect was a Cheltenham resident. But again, this resident had in his possession scales and cash and other things. So I just wanted to pass this around because, you know, it's one thing to market drugs, you know, to adults, but clearly, you know, the ledger that this guy was delivering these to other young people. And it is something that many people in our community are not aware of. But it's brownies, Rice Krispies, other candies, baggies of weed, and Captain Crunch and other treats. So I'm just going to pass that around so you guys are aware of that. But he was charged with possession with intent to deliver, which is a felony.
I'm not sure if we can get a picture of that, or if you want a picture. Okay. Should we-
And as I pass that around, if it's okay, I just wanted to quickly mention that the Willow Grove NAACP Unity Day, which our police department, community policing, partners with Valerie Ward, my friend. I told her that I would promote this evening. We will have tables set up with traffic safety information, and our minority recruitment table will be there. So please come out and support Valerie Ward and the Willow Grove NAACP. Our PAL Food Festival, which is our biggest fundraiser of the year for our Police Athletic League, is on Tuesday, October 9th. The reason I'm bringing it up is because my predecessor, Chief John Livingood, will be the recipient of the Law Enforcement Award and will be honored that evening, along with Valerie Ward, who has been a long time a fixture at PAL over the last, almost since the inception, I would guess. So please come out and support that at Philmont Country Club. It begins at 5:30 p.m. One other thing that we decided as a police department, this is Suicide Prevention Month. In our business, unfortunately, the officers witness too many suicides during the course of their career. It is preventable. Montgomery County Health and Human Services, we're partnering with them on a campaign. We have about 50 to 100 window clings, drive-out suicide, which we're going to be displaying on our vehicles. We're also going to promote their post on our social media. They invited us to do that and put a display in our lobby. We're waiting. I think that will be here by the end of the week. And one final announcement. I know with the passage of the 90-day temporary stop signs and other signage. Officer Freed has been posting on Facebook whenever those new signs go out, so residents have a heads up that they are going out. And he also is sharing it with the Township. I think he shared it with Nathan, and he's promoting that on the television Township channel, so our residents have a heads up when these things are installed. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
I have a question and a comment, and then I'll open it up. Unity Day, do we know, is there a rain date for that if it rains? I know the weather's not supposed to be so great this weekend. Does anybody know?
I don't think there is, to be honest with you.
Hopefully it won't be rained out, or it won't be all day, so we can still have it. And as we're talking, the picture that you had just talked about is being put up for anybody who's watching this on TV from the arrest. The other comment I wanted to make was that Penn State Abington is also having a suicide, a person coming out to speak on that on Monday, I believe it is, around lunchtime. I'm sure you can go to Penn State Abington's website. I believe, though, you're connected there, too. He's a former police officer, is that right? Or,
Yes, on the
yeah.
Golden Gate Bridge, I think he witnessed several suicides over his career, and he was coming
Yeah,
to speak.
so he's supposed to be a very dynamic speaker on that topic. So there's a lot of things within Montgomery County and the community on suicide awareness in the next coming weeks. And I'll open it up for any questions or comments to Chief Malloy. Anybody have anything? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to recognize that we have a representative from the Second Alarmers, and we have our fire marshal in the audience tonight, if anybody has any comments or questions for them. Gentlemen, do either of you have any report this evening? I can't see, but I'm thinking they're both no's there, so thank you for coming, though. All righty, so unfinished business. P.S. 01, 09, 05, 18 is a motion to adopt ordinance number 2159, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 10, U-turns and 14 stop intersections, and Article 3, Parking Regulations, Section 25, parking prohibited at all times, no parking between signs, no parking here to corner, and Section 28, Special Purpose Parking Zones, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Since this is old business, the roads that this involves were discussed previously, but we do have them in the minutes and in the agenda if anybody wants to see them. Any comments or questions about this particular from commissioners, staff, audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. For new business, PS 02090518 is to consider a motion to approve Resolution 18040, a resolution of the Township of Abington, County of Montgomery, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to submit a proposal for continued funding of our Sobriety Checkpoint program, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Commissioners? Yes.
All we're
Commissioner
doing
Thompson.
is, all we're doing is seeking a proposal for this one. We're not committing to.
Chief, do you have any comments about this particular agenda item?
No.
Okay. So it's just a proposal at this point. It's for the continued funding. It's for the sobriety checkpoint that we have.
Yes, our Sergeant Blythe has been coordinating this for the eastern region of Montgomery County over the last several months, but before that, we've had other supervisors, and we sort of have been the point administrative branch for that. So it takes place in Abington Township, Cheltenham. All these locations are announced ahead of time. We believe that it does promote awareness of drunk driving, and now we're seeing a spiking driving under the influence of marijuana and other narcotics for the first time. So I think it is a worthy cause, and I would ask for your support on that.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Actually, I have a question. Are there any additional tests now that we have the opioid spike that are done at a sobriety, or maybe you can't tell us that? I'm not sure.
We have to follow the standards, the field sobriety test, and most often we take people for blood, which is most reliable. And during that screening, which goes to National Medical Services for analyses, that is sort of, we are proactive in that. If we find other evidence which would indicate that they are using an opioid or some other drug.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from staff or audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. As I have said before, I am against, I believe this violates our stop and search. I believe it's a constitutional violation. And we have people that if you do something out of the norm, the police have a right to stop you. But if you are a law-abiding citizen who's doing nothing wrong, to put people in, then what's the reason not to have more often sobriety tests and more frequent? This is not the kind of state that we want. We want a state that the people who are doing something wrong are taken and actually dealt with, and we put programs in and we deal with that. But to take law-abiding citizens sometimes who get into arguments with officers and end up, in a situation they never would have been in otherwise, I think that's wrong. So I have heard from many sides of this issue, and it's just a violation. So I understand the good intentions. As I've said before, if you really want to catch the drunk drivers, sit outside a bar. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from audience? Commissioner Vahey?
I just want to note that sobriety checkpoints have been specifically upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court as being in conformance with the Fifth Amendment.
Was that a question or a comment? Oh, I thought you were asking. Okay. Thank you. Any other commissioners? And then we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment on public safety? That concludes our agenda, I forgot to say, but any public safety comments?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So Chief Malloy and I still have to discuss that issue of the tiny little print at the bottom of the Police Pension Association. But I haven't had time to do that yet. You've been keeping me busy on other fronts. I wonder, Commissioner Schreiber, if you needed to put something on the agenda, let's say yesterday. Are you able to do that? If something came up to your attention and the timing had not been appropriate to put it on by Wednesday, which is the way it's supposed to go, could you have done Thursday or Friday? Could you have put something on the agenda?
You can go ahead and make your comments instead of questioning me.
Well,
Thank
I'm
you.
asking a question. So what you're showing by not answering your question is that we have commissioners that are not interested in having a conversation that would lead to understanding. So, I mean, I think it's a problem with public safety when we have commissioners or solicitors even who are giving advice or telling us things that aren't true. And I think that we have to really care about that and guard against that. I think recently residents asked commissioners if they could put something on the schedule. The advice from the solicitor was rather roundabout. He didn't really say you couldn't put it on, but it was interpreted by the commissioner who received it, and he reinterpreted it to his residents that he was legally not able to do that. Okay, so commissioners, you all had been asked in a letter to dismiss something, and after the recent zoning meeting, we asked to have that done. So my concern is if we have a solicitor or a commissioner who's not telling the truth the way it should be, okay, I think we have a great concern, okay? And Mr. Clark's comment recently about being, amused, and that was the reason for his smile. I just spent probably an hour on the phone with someone from another township, and they've begun to turn their cameras on Mr. Clark for mocking the residents when they're speaking. So, his smile of amusement is not what we're looking for. We're looking for honest answers. We're looking for solid advice. And Commissioner Schreiber, when we ask a question, we're looking for answers. So just like the last time when we refused to engage, just like the times that Mr. Klein interrupted me, Mr. Manfredi recently said something I said was not true. He just did again. Mr. Manfredi said something I said was not true. When lies and improper advice...
Your time is up. Thank you
Okay,
for your
I'll
comments.
finish my sentence. When lies and improper advice are allowed to be the norm in a township, the public safety is at risk. Thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to call to order the September 5th, 2018 Township of Abington Public Affairs Committee meeting. Let us start with the roll call. Here.
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 All right. That went well. This is actually the first time I've been here in a while. Thank you very much to Commissioner Bowman for filling in for me on multiple occasions. You're actually way more entertaining than I am, which makes me self-conscious. But we're going to just move on to the approval of the minutes. This is a motion to approve the minutes of the June 6, 2018 Public Affairs Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any corrections from anyone but Commissioner Klein? All right, then. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. We have, it's our pleasure to welcome one of the members of our Public Affairs family, representing the library and giving us an update on all the awesome things that the library's been doing. We have the Vice President of the Library Board, Mr. Brian Mays.
Hi. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to talk about two things. The first is our adult literacy program. This program serves our adult population, specifically those who do not speak English as their native language, those who are seeking citizenship, and those who are testing for high school equivalency. For over 25 years, the adult literacy program has received federal funding, which was necessary to function to serve our in excess of 100 students per year. Unfortunately, as of August 1st, the federal funding has dissipated. This is one of the only library programs in the area that offers adult literacy services. The Library Board of Trustees is committed to the program's values and the benefit that it provides our community. But we're concerned about the longevity of the program. The second thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was just a brief update on the library, especially now that it's the end of the summer. We've had a number of successful summer programs. One, the Doggone Good Readers. Second, we've offered a lot of STEM courses for students as part of our Science in the Summer programs. One addition that we've added this year was microbits. These are things that allow young children to engage in computer coding activities and learn about science and technology through that. Popular in the United Kingdom, starting to gain some traction in the United States, but we're one of the first libraries to use it here. Also, an update on circulation. July was a very popular month. Just to give you an example, by circulation count, Ward 1, members there circulated over 2,000 items, 2,600 to be exact. And then in second place, Ward 7 with 2,200 items. In general, though, citizens of Abington Township circulated over 26,000 items in the month of July alone. So I wanted to also take this moment to thank Nancy, our executive director, thank the library staff for their ingenuity and their innovation, and for engaging our residents, especially our younger residents, with cutting-edge resources. So thank you.
Brian, thank you very much. Just for the record, in Ward 11, we were all away. Otherwise, but we are quite literate. We love the library. The adult literacy program, I know, firsthand. It's an amazing program. I know quite a few Ward 11 residents who've volunteered there for years, and I have gotten to go to some of the events, the graduation ceremonies, and it's incredibly moving. My understanding is not only does it serve many Abington residents, but also as other libraries' programs have, as you said, sort of dissipated over the course of many years, it's a draw from outside as well. So it's a very popular program, sort of regionally, not just here, right?
That is correct. Because of the limited amount of programs that are offered for adult literacy, Abington serves many residents, not just Abington residents. And I should mention that Ward 11 was in third place. You missed it by one item.
Because I was out of the country.
That must be it.
Big reader, big reader. Does anyone on the board have any? President Lukard, question for Mr. Mays.
You said the federal funding was eliminated or cut. How much were you receiving a year?
Recently in the EL Civics grant, that's the money that we were getting from federal funding over the last 5+ years. It was $33,000.
33 per year?
Per year.
Okay, 33 per year.
Yes.
How do you expect to supplement that or replace that?
The Board of Trustees is looking into that at the moment. We don't want to cut any services, especially because of how important it is to both our residents and, as you mentioned, Commissioner Spiegelman, other residents as well. But we're still looking into that.
Any other questions for Mr. Mays? Commissioner Thompson.
I'm still planning to come to a library board meeting at some point. I promised it to
We
you.
look forward to
Sorry,
it.
I haven't been there yet. That's my bad.
He only reads blueprints.
Sorry. One question for you. How many volumes have been added to the circulation this year?
So how many volumes have been added?
Yeah, to the collection.
Nancy, do you want to?
We had possibly.
Nancy, you got to speak in the mic, or else it didn't happen.
Okay. We add approximately between 8 and 10,000 items to the collection a year, but we also withdraw between 8 and 10,000 items a year because limited footprint, we can't keep growing and growing. So we try to stay between the Abington Free Library and the Roslyn Branch Library at about 140 items between the two buildings.
140,000.
140,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And for the folks watching at home who don't know, that was our library director, executive director, what's your title?
Director.
Director, Nancy Hammocky Marshall. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
All right, that was our presentation. Unfinished business, no unfinished business. New business, we have 4 items tonight, and we are going to start with PA1. This is a motion to adopt resolution number 18-041 to approve the Walk Park Train Report. This final report is the result of the Transportation Community Development Initiative, the TCDI grant from Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, DVRPC, which the township was awarded in 2016. This report supports the township's master bike plan, and I so move. Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and I'll point out to Commissioner Gillespie that all the acronyms were explained here. We're going to have a presentation. Please, I know you, but introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Pankaj Jubanputra. I'm a planner over at Simone Collins Landscape Architecture, and we're the primary consultant along with traffic planning and design for the Walk Park Train Abington project. Tonight I'll just go over a brief presentation on the highlights of the recommendations that we have in the plan. First off, we had our first board meeting in June of last year. That was after our draft plan was released. We'll have a refresher of our project scope in a second. The duration of the project was between October 2016 and September 2017. We had a very engaging public participation process with this plan. We had 14 meetings, including 5 committee meetings, and I want to thank Commissioners Sanchez and Klein for their participation in our committee. We had some good feedback from them and other members of the stakeholders. We had 4 public meetings and technical meetings with SEPTA, PennDOT, and Montgomery County Planning to get their feedback along the plan. Now, just to refresh the project scope, basically what we want to do here is inventory all the existing transportation infrastructure in the township and use that to create a basis to enhance pedestrian and bike mobility to that very strong network of transportation infrastructure, including 7 SEPTA stations, multiple bus routes, as well as other community facilities like the existing parks and open spaces and the 16 schools, and also other regional and local destinations like shopping along shopping corridors and residential areas. We also want to incorporate stormwater BMPs. If we're recommending changes to the station, let's incorporate these BMPs as well to manage the stormwater. And we also looked at intersection enhancements where trails, sidewalks, and roadways intersected along with neighborhoods and other modes of transportation to improve safety and accessibility to the infrastructure and the transportation stations. These next few slides will pretty much go over the highlights of the recommendations that we had for the 7 regional rail stations. At Ardsley, we looked at Ardsley as more of a dense area. You had some retail and you had some opportunities for redevelopment and retail here next to the train station. So we looked at that. We looked at having a neighborhood gateway, welcoming people into this area, and also expanding parking at the VFW for the possibility of parking leasing, and some redevelopment opportunities along the south next to Tyson Avenue. Other recommendations outside of the station area included upgrading crosswalks and pedestrian signals at Jenkintown and Edgehill and Jenkintown and Tyson to improve that safer accessibility to the station, as well as looking at new crosswalks at Tyson Avenue and Edgehill Road. At Crestmont, this is a concept for Crestmont that we had. Here we looked at improving pedestrian mobility from Old York Road, improving the safety from there. This is a major corridor, so we want to have that access for pedestrians there, along with some signage to alert people that there is a train station from Old York Road going into Crestmont. We looked at enhancing parking spaces by looking at additional parking and next to the landscape company that's to the north of the station. So this, along with some parking on the other side, provided an additional 37 spaces of parking. And we saw the potential for some transit-oriented development to the south end of the station to provide that mix of retail next to this busy station. Crestmont is also located strategically between the Easton and Old York Road corridors. So again, here we want to improve that pedestrian accessibility from Easton Road and Rubicam, and also from Old York and Rubicam for pedestrian access. Meadowbrook, here we had a hodgepodge of parking. Parking is pretty haphazard in this area. So the highlight here was formalizing the parking in Meadowbrook, as well as the circulation of the traffic. Now, we added over 100 spots, 100 new spots at Meadowbrook to account for the traffic coming in and out of the area along the north and south side. So this is accounted for in more of a seamless, nicely circulated area at Meadowbrook. For Noble Station, there have been a lot of plans already in place in Noble, most notably Walk Manco. So here we just wanted to adapt what we thought best practices for Noble Station and implement them here. Along the station, these include stair ramps on the Old York Road Bridge going down to the station, so stairs and a ramp going down to the station for easier access. In the neighborhood south of Rodman, we wanted to improve accessibility, so we recommending crosswalks at Rodman Avenue, and also a new crossing along the train station. We know that right now if people want to go to the Betawood shopping area, they have to come up to the bridge, cross the bridge, and go down, so we wanted to have smoother access along that point. We also wanted to have safer access. We were looking at continental style or zebra crosswalks going across Old York Road from that side, and then also improving the roundabout over at Teltina, so you have that smoother access at that front. For North Hills, here again, we're seeing more of a village-type atmosphere, especially if you're coming along Mount Carmel Avenue down to the station. So here we wanted some signage, more of a gateway type of feel, and also having some mixed-use redevelopment next to the Pico substation over there, along with some buffer planting to really cement this as more of a village atmosphere with a train station on the side. We also looked at redevelopment along North Hills Avenue, and we know that Mount Carmel is also in the process of being redesigned, so we wanted to look at narrowing that intersection to make it safer for pedestrians crossing the street. Looking at other access areas, we wanted to improve alignments at North Hills and Mount Carmel, and also crossing improvements at Mount Carmel and Tennis, again, to have that safer atmosphere into the village scene. Roslyn, the major change we proposed at Roslyn is we know that when the train comes in, it creates a snarl of traffic along Susquehanna and Easton, so we're proposing to move the platform into the middle of the station, so when the train comes in, it just comes into the middle without blocking traffic. We also formalized the parking and had greater circulation of parking in the area, adding an additional 89 spaces of, I'm sorry, adding an additional 1 space of parking to have that nice smooth parking transition. And again, further out from Roslyn, we're looking at reducing the crossing distance and also, again, relocating the platform from the intersection to the middle of the area. Rydell, here we're looking at a low denser area, but there's some sidewalk access here. We notice there's some good sidewalk access here, but you're kind of pinched where you're coming along Susquehanna and Old Valley. So here, again, we're looking at improved crossings at that pinch point so it's safer for pedestrians, and also potential walkways and stairs from the business in the north end of Susquehanna so it's easier to get down to, as well as additional parking. We're looking at rectangular rapid flashing beacons at Washington Lane to make it easier for pedestrians to come across at that end, and also a new crosswalk at Rydell and Fairway, which is presented here to give pedestrians more of a bastion of safety when they're crossing the road in an island in the median, as well as a new crosswalk. So those are the improvements. Here we have some cost estimates for the improvements here at the different stations. In total, it's approximately $325,000 to $1.3 million for the improvements. Potential partners to implement a lot of these recommendations include local partners like schools and institutions, as well as the county, Montgomery County Planning, and the usual funding sources, DCNR, DCD, and multimodal advocacy groups. These next two slides just show a continuation of plans in place. This is the TAP, Transportation Alternative Program alignment that's currently in place between Ardsley and Crestmont to create an on-road trail section between these two stations. And this is the Jenkintown to Pennypack Trail Transportation Alternative Set-Aside, which was awarded earlier this year. A segment was awarded $715,000 in early 2018 to create on- and off-road trails connecting the Abington's Friends School with the Pennypack Trail going through Alverthorpe Park and Fox Chase Road. So the northern section was funded in 2018. Now, the next steps are to continue to work with SEPTA. SEPTA is very excited about the recommendations in the plan, so we encourage the commissioners, the township, to work with SEPTA on making these improvements happen. Prioritize Noble and Roslyn recommendations because we know that they see a lot of traffic. Work the sidewalk gaps out, prioritize the sidewalk gaps, and continue to be partners with advocacy groups and neighborhoods, and also pursue grants for other funding sources. In addition to the TA set-aside, $1 million in multimodal transportation funding was also awarded to improve pedestrian mobility and safety. So we know things are moving forward, and it's good to see. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was, I have to say, having attended, we spoke at the various public meetings, I'm very impressed by the amount of resident feedback that's really been incorporated into these plans. I know we have a number of commissioners who are new enough that they weren't on the board during the time of the public meeting, so I could talk about this stuff all night, but I'm going to open it up to questions from the board. Commissioner Thompson, I knew you'd be first.
Just one question.
Yes.
At the Roslyn station, you talked about moving the platform sort of inboard to keep it out of the line of traffic when the trains are stopped. Same situation exists in Ardsley. Was that ever a consideration? Did that come up in conversation?
Not to move the platform. We looked at increasing the safety of pedestrians there and mitigating that traffic, but we didn't look at improving or moving the platform at Ardsley.
Okay.
And we know that SEPTA as well is looking at the redesign of Roslyn in the next couple of years as part of the capital improvements program as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Other questions and comments from the board? All right, then. I have to say, I love that you guys at Simone Collins finally internalized that it's Rydell and not Rydell. That, I'm sure that makes Commissioner Klein very happy.
I also go back to Greece, Rydell.
So, all right. So then I guess we'll open it to questions from the audience. Or comments from the audience. I said comment. Yeah, that was comments. Comments.
So lots of improvements there. Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So the question that I had, is the intent to go to paid parking in most of these stations? Is there a look down the road towards that?
No, parking is free at the station.
So the parking's intended to stay free. That's a good thing. So, yeah, and so there were a lot of good changes. That was a concern that many of us had. Thank you.
All right, then. Any other comments from the audience? Oh, here's a familiar face.
Hi. Khaki Evans, 1132 Lindsay Lane. I'm really happy to see that this plan is proceeding. When we got our STAR accreditation, I think 7.5% of our township uses public transportation, 0.1% bike. So I hope that this will have an impact and something that we can measure. Is this the last time this evening at this meeting that residents have an opportunity to talk publicly, or will there be another opportunity?
No, well, everyone, folks can make comments
committees.
on each of the agenda items, but
Right.
then there's going to be a general
There will be
public
at the end?
comment section, at the end.
There will be one. All right. Thank you very much.
Stick around, Khaki.
Okay.
Stick around. All right, there were no other comments. Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
PA1 passes. Moving on to PA2. A motion to adopt resolution number 18-0442, authorizing the filing of an application for funds with the Department of Community and Economic Development, DCED, for Home Investment Partnership, HOME program, to fund the Township's owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. Matching funds are not a grant requirement for this program, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Director Strother, do you have any comments on this item?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Abington Township for the past 28 years has operated an owner-occupied residential rehabilitation program for income-qualified Abington Township residents. There's a series of requirements. There's a residency requirement for 2 years and a couple other requirements to be an applicant in this process. Since 1990, this program has been operating, and it has benefited, I don't know the exact count, but it's over 600 homes that residents who may not have had the financial wherewithal to do repairs or fix things such as roof, any code violation, the township, through its funds, through the CBG funds, we have operated programs. But also there's an opportunity at the state level, which is before you, to apply for home funds, which is a mirror image, or operates a mirror image of our CDBG program. They're identical, but they come from HUD, but from a different funding stream. But it is recommended to continue with this program, the funding program, so that our residents can benefit for repair. And I would just add that the benefit is not only immediate for the residents that occupy the home, but also the township. You will be investing to your housing stock that is aged, that does need replacement, and it's just a good investment to continue this practice.
Thank you very much, Director Strother. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Commissioner Schreiber.
Quick question. So I know we have quite a long waiting list. I think it said 6 years to
Yes.
get to the top of the list. Is that a constant? You know what I mean? Like, is it every year, is it always 6 years, or has it been going up, so now it's 6 years, or is it going down, and it used to be 10 years, or is that pretty constant, 6 year?
Looking at the bigger picture for the past 28 years, it fluctuates. Sometimes we get into homes that are a little bit more difficult, and there's more time either with the residents getting the documentation back, because they have to process the residents to make sure they're qualified, to have the proper documentation in the files. Then we go into construction, and sometimes we get into unforeseen conditions where we have to pause and basically get a cost from the contractor for the repairs, so the administration. Sometimes it goes very smoothly, meaning that we can get those homes done and then move on to the next batch. So, this is probably one of the more lengthier times that we have done. But the hope is to eliminate that list as best as possible.
It's just so concerning if you have need of repair and then it's 6 years later, like, what's it look like then,
Yeah, it breaks our heart that we can't just do everybody all at one
Sure.
time.
I get that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Commissioners in general? All right. Manager Manfredi.
Mr. Strother, the amount of funds that you're recommending the board approve in the resolution with the filing of the application for the funds with the department is in what amount?
It is my recommendation for $100,000, because currently, right now, for our current budget, CDBG budget, we have $187,000, and we do have funds remaining from prior years.
So the reason I want to make sure the commissioners understand that if you're requesting 100, why you're recommending 100 versus 500 when you can do more homes with a long waiting list at 500, for example?
Agreed, and it's a good question. The higher amount that you ask from the state, you're competing with other municipalities. So it makes it, you're asking for a bigger piece of the pie. You can ask for $500,000, which we have done before. The state came back and awarded $300,000, in which we successfully completed, and you have the on-site monitoring closeout letter in your packet. But right now, if we have $100,000 for what's before you, we just approved $187,000 for the CDBG funds, and from prior years, we have another $80,000. So sure, we can ask for more money, but we're going to be asking for a bigger pot of the pie in a very competitive round. But it's the board's decision what your preference would be.
Manager Manfredi, that was actually a very astute point. Director Strother, I know with some programs, like say with DCED grants, you will apply for a certain amount, and it, as you said, it's a big big piece of a limited pie. It's very competitive, but frequently, again, with that particular program, very different program, they'll come back to you. They might come back to you and say, all right, you asked for 500, we only awarded you 100. For the home program, obviously this is a different kind of DCD grant. If we were to say apply for 500,000, would it be possible that they might just come back and award us 100, or it's either 500 or rejection? Do we know that?
That's a great question. I haven't gone through this process to understand what the reaction would be. if they wanted to have a lesser amount. I can ask a question and have an answer next week for you.
Okay. Manager Manfredi, I mean, obviously, we'll open this up to more comment, but what is your opinion as far as proceeding tonight? Should we proceed at the current level of 100,000, or revisit when we have a little more information and decide maybe, do we want to ask for more in order to cut into that substantial waiting list?
Two things I wanted to make sure the commissioners were aware of is when you see a 6-year waiting list and when you think of all the people who are in need, that if we can ask for more, and the answer is that we're asking for 5, but they'll give you 3, similar to other grants that we've applied for. I would just want to make sure that we don't only ask for 100 and could have had 300.
Right.
So my recommendation would be that you move the motion forward to the full board, and if you want to recommend to an amount to be determined at the regular meeting based upon the feedback we get from Mr. Struther, I think that would be appropriate.
Is that something that would require an amendment to this motion?
No, because you can amend the motion. What the full board approves could be different from what you're recommending.
All right, why don't we continue with any questions or comments from the board in general? All right, I guess we can open it up to the audience then.
John?
Oh, Commissioner Thompson.
I had one quick one. Oh, no, never mind. Wrong agenda item. I'm good. Thanks.
You can ask one later. It's all right. I'll give you 2 later. All right, so then...
If you're more comfortable, you can say up to amount of 500,000 to be confirmed at the regular meeting. It's however you want to proceed.
I mean, I'm fine. Oh, Commissioner Schreiber?
The actual motion doesn't have an amount.
That is true.
That is correct. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay. Oh, also, this is a complete side thing, but just there's a typo in the motion. It says GOM program instead of home program. And every time I look at it, I want to say GNOME program, but that's pretty useless. That's not much of a home repair to put a little gnome outside each house. It's minimal decoration.
And Commissioner, just to the point, the reason I raise it is the first sentence, it talks about resolution of the Township of Abington authorizing the filing of an application for funds with the Department of Community Affairs. I just thought the Board of Commissioners should set that amount on the record.
All right, so how about if we, since it isn't actually specified here, how about we, if the committee so desires, we move it along, and then once we find out the answer from Director Struther, we can set the amount next week, hopefully for more. All right? All right, so we've opened it up to everybody for comments, so
I have
let's...
one other.
Commissioner Schreiber again.
If we go higher, is another question you're going to ask, that won't kind of kick us out of the whole thing. If we ask for 500, and it's that competitive. So I think we were...
I think that's exactly what, right, is that correct? That's the understanding.
And
is
then
that-
you're also going to try to find out if there's, I don't know how to put this, like a negotiation, like if they're going to do 500, and if we ask for 500, if they'll want us to have less.
Yes, I'll look
Both
into
of
that.
those questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we
I just wanna
definitely
make
don't
sure
want to
that-
knock ourselves out. We
Yeah.
don't want to, if there's only one shot, we don't want to knock ourselves, we don't want to get nothing.
Yes.
But again, if it follows the pattern of, say, the multimodal transportation grants, you might ask for $1 million, they'll just come back and say, no, you get 300,000. But that's a big difference from getting nothing, so. All right, so I think we can go ahead and vote.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, PA2 passes. Moving on to PA3. A motion to approve the MyLCM Solutions Incorporated Service Agreement dated May 18th, 2016, and approve payment in accordance with the contract in the amount of $20,950. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Manager Manfredi, do you want to give out some back? Oh, actually, please. I apologize. Director Struther, more background.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. The Township of Abington participated in the renovations, new construction, and rehabilitation of the public housing Crest Manor, and the project was completed in 2017. There were CDBG funds that were part of the mixed financing, which really helped the county get the competitive funds at the state level and federal level that made it much more attractive to get awarded. The next step is the CDBG has a tremendous, it's a complex program with a lot of moving parts. And one of the parts is the Davis-Bacon Act, in which all construction workers must be paid the prevailing wage. Not only are they paid prevailing wage, but it has to be tracked and documented. Before the project started, I looked into software instead of doing pen and paper and tracking. There were only 4 companies out there. 3 of them you had to buy software, but the one that was selected, it was internet-based, and all the subcontractors have to do is log online, and they can upload the data. So it is something that's digitized and easily trackable. Initially, I was concerned if we were going to get 100% cooperation from all the subcontractors, but it turned out that everybody got on board, and it turned out to be much more easier. Having been in the construction industry for over 40 years, I would say that the industry is still using pen and paper to track the Davis-Bacon wage acts. There are tremendous ramifications of not having this information. There's tremendous ramifications of not paying workers a proper wage. But with this software, or it's not software, but with the software that's online, the host gives the most updated wage rate that needs to be paid, and then it compares to what's coming in with the subcontractor. So when a subcontractor is saying I'm paying one of my workers X, it has to be lined up what the current wage rate is. The long story short is that it is very detrimental and devastating when you finish your report to say you didn't pay the workers a right wage, and the township has the obligation to make sure that worker gets the correct wages. So this work is extremely involved, and it was much more involved than I could have taken on, having a $10 million construction project with over maybe 200 workers. I sought out to hire this company to do the tracking. It was extremely successful. They did all the work that they'd asked to do. But now at the end of the project, unfortunately, there was a miscommunication from 2 or 3 parties that the invoicings weren't coming in a timely fashion. So, here we are. I spoke to the administration, and it was administration and also the township solicitor. It was recommended to bring this before the governing body to make a decision about this matter.
So basically, this software, this kind of subscribing to this app, in effect, this web-based app, would allow for the correction to the Crest Manor project you cited, but also, I mean, in theory, if for other future projects that where prevailing wage law, where Davis-Bacon applies, we could employ this software under those future circumstances as well.
Yes, if you
Okay.
have a large-scale project.
I'm going to go ahead. Manager Manfredi.
Mr. Chairman, I think the explanation was given as to why this contract was entered into with somebody to provide compliance with prevailing wage. There are 2 issues in front of the commissioners this evening. The first is to approve the contract, which was executed by Mr. Strother in 2016, right, but it still never had the approval of the Board of Commissioners. So that's really just to approve the contract. As a result of that contract, since that time, this company has split. So there's an amount that's been outstanding, an amount of $20,000 and change, which you see here, which was never authorized because this agreement was never properly approved. Right. So first we need to approve the agreement so that these people can get paid. And then the next question is, who's being paid now because the company split? Is it Hill International or E-Comply Solutions? Solicitor Murley has suggested that payment should go to E-Comply Solutions. So you would be approving the motion to approve the My LCM Solutions agreement so that it can then be paid to either
E-Comply,
Hill
right,
or E-Comply. That's really the core issue here this evening.
Right. Thank you for breaking all that down. I'm going to actually go ahead and open this up to questions first from members of the committee. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. Director Strother, what do you advise on this? To go the way the motion is read, or?
I would advise, as Township Manager Manfredi described, to one, approve of the contract that was signed in 2016, and authorize the payment to, I believe it's Hill International. We have to sort out.
I think it's
which one entitled to.
E-Comply.
Hill International is a large international project management company, and they had a subsidiary, which was My LCM, that we engaged a contract with. Towards the last 3 months of the project, My LCM folks broke away, and now they came into E-Solutions. So there was really there's three entities involved. We contracted with the subsidiary, My LCM, but Hill is the one that they're claiming that they're contractually obligated to receive the money because they basically were funding the My LCM folks and getting them up and running.
So who do we make the check out to?
Manager Manfredi, am I misinterpreting that that's a little different from what you said, that Solicitor Murley?
So let's just be clear. In answer to Commissioner Meyer's question, the way the motion is written is correct. The only thing that was missing was there was an unanswered question as to who this should be to. The answer that we received through Ms. Waymeyer and Solicitor Barbara Murley is that it should be made out to E-Comply Solutions. So who the check was made out to was the only thing that was outstanding.
Okay. I'm just going to finish with the committee first and then Commissioner Schreiber?
Real quick. I just want to make sure that the question or the comment that you made before, so am I understanding that once we do this, if we approve it and it's paid, do we then still have a contract and have access to this software, or is this the end of it? So if there was another thing to come out with prevailing wage, do we have to have a new contract at that point?
There is no software. Go ahead.
Yes, we will still have access to the data. The data has been
The data,
collected.
but not the software.
It's
It's
online.
web-
It's not,
web-based.
we're not actually getting any software.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's web-based, so we
But
don't.
we don't have access, like, for another project. It's just the data for this particular project that we already did? Or, does that
We're
make sense?
done. You're saying, are we done?
Are we done?
Are we
Yeah,
done?
or can we use?
Can we avail ourselves of E-Comply Solutions under the terms of this contract? Can we avail ourselves for, in the event that we have to be prevailing wage compliant? Can we avail ourselves of this service, or would we be
And
starting?
This
Can we-
completes it. This will
Okay.
be final payment. This will complete the contract that was entered into. You're ratifying, for lack of a better, you're approving a contract which allows payment to be made. And there's another piece to this, I'm trying not to make this complicated, that there are other people above this who need this action to be taken so this payment can be made so that they can be reimbursed on this project.
Right,
according
I
to
get that. I get the thing about this project, but there's nothing going forward.
Correct.
This is entirely retroactive.
This
Fixing
completes-
something, right.
Okay.
Understood, understood. Any other questions from the committee? Commissioner, opening up to the board in general, Commissioner Thompson, I think you had a question.
So what's on the agenda tonight is to approve the contract that's already been executed with a company that no longer exists?
Because that is correct.
With the entity that replaced them.
The agreement was entered into in 2016, but it was never approved by the Board of Commissioners. So in order to execute the payment, to make the payment proper, the agreement, even though it was executed back then, has to be approved, so you have somebody to make payment to. And unfortunately, it has changed. So you're approving the agreement, which makes that action okay, and then you're approving the payment to E-Comply Solutions. I would not sign off on the $20,000 payment for the Finance Committee to consider because the agreement was not properly authorized.
How do we get?
Does that make it clear?
How do we get so much time in between the time the agreement was executed and now? I mean, there's a number of invoices that have come in, and is this the first we're hearing of this?
This has been trying, go ahead, Van.
the township wasn't billed for the services. They performed the duties, gave the weekly reports, and this went on for 18 months, and the township was just never billed.
But, I mean, the backup here, they're citing invoices. They're citing 9 invoices. The first one is from August of 16 all the way through June of 17?
Yes, and for an entire year, or a better part of a year, the township was never invoiced.
Okay.
Commissioner Fahey?
I have a huge problem voting to approve a contract that was executed before I was elected to serve on this board. I don't know what else we can do at this point. Services have been rendered and should be paid for. But going forward, staff should not be signing contracts without going through the manager's office to see if they need to be approved by the board. And that just needs to be the policy going forward.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? From the audience? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, PA3 passes. Our final agenda item is PA4. It's the motion to recommend the transfer of $12,000 from the contingency fund to repair the surface of the Ardsley tennis courts, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Director Earls, sounds pretty straightforward. Tell us about the Ardsley tennis courts.
It's a tennis court that we did a couple of years ago. It's since out of warranty. There was an unexpected failure of the surface. I reached out to the company that did it. You know, it's hard to prove one way or the other. I had some reps come out to look at it. They made they wouldn't say that they necessarily did anything wrong, but they were willing to do the repairs and give us an additional warranty on it. It will need to be the surface taken off and recolor coded and striped at this point. We had to take the court out of service just for safety issues because of the nature of the surface separation. It was unexpected. It wasn't something that was on the timetable, but it has been a court that I've been getting a lot of feedback. It gets used a lot, and I found that out recently. No, it's a heavily used court, and I'd really like to get it back online in a safe manner.
Hence, contingency fund as opposed to fund of expected things. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Commissioners in general?
I do have a question. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Myers.
And I'm just making sure that I understand this correctly. Is this the right way to go? Do you have the same company do the repair that?
I don't think they necessarily did anything wrong. I think it came down to a weather issue. A lot of these materials, sometimes they don't set correctly depending on temperature. And they're willing to do the repairs and the crack repairs at a discount for us, more or less because they don't want to leave them bad. But a lot of these companies, it's a pretty straightforward repair. I think it was just an unfortunate, either a bad mix of material or something like that.
Do we have a history with this company, or
This particular company, I think, has done some courts for us before.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. I mean, we've used several different companies, but it happens.
Jumping off of Commissioner Myers' question, do we have a history of catastrophic failures with this company?
Not that I can think of.
That's
I mean,
good.
We've had courts that, for a number of reasons, cracks. I mean, a lot of the ground in this area is it's not stable. In certain plats, it drops, it falls, we get cracks. I mean, this is just something that wasn't on the radar and it popped up.
I see a lot of commercials for Flex Seal. Maybe they want to put that on there.
Only if you want to float a screen.
Commissioner Sapone.
Yeah, this court is heavily used, and I've been getting phone calls every week of when this is going back in service, and I've been dealing with Andy with that, so this is kind of a priority.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Klein and then Commissioner Thompson.
So the company did the court, and there's a potential issue with the way they received the mix or installed the material, and we're still going to use them again? I mean, aren't we relying on their expertise to make sure that these problems don't occur?
We are. This court was done 4 or 5 years ago. So you're getting kind of outside the window of when most companies would warranty a court anyway. I kind of pushed them a little bit harder because I didn't think something was right with the material. You can't really prove it, though. I mean, going back 5 years, it's hard to say.
Well, regardless of whether you can prove it or not, I mean, you have to use some common sense in this situation.
Yeah, I can certainly check out some of the other companies as well if I can get it for, for a price that'll still give me what I need done quickly.
What would be, if I can just jump in, I know Commissioner Thompson has a question. What would be the warranty on this repair work? Would they, I mean, you said they would be offering a discount.
2 years.
And what would be the normal warranty? Like the work they did, you said it was out of warranty. What was that previous warranty?
I would have to go back and look. It was done, like I said, it was done 5 or 6 years ago, and I did not personally do that project. So I would have to dig through some notes on it.
Be nice if they.
But you said they're giving us a discount as well? Did I hear
Yeah,
you say?
they're giving us about a 25% discount to rectify some of the problems. I still have to pay for some of the work.
Commissioner Thompson.
So are we getting the discount from the manufacturer of the product or the installer themselves? Okay. And the installer's providing a 2-year warranty or the manufacturer?
Installer.
Is the manufacturer providing a warranty on their materials on top of the 2-year installed warranty?
I can look into that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from members of the board?
Oh, yeah, one more. So,
Commissioner Thompson again.
to avoid this in the future, is the manufacturer going to be coming out and inspecting the job to make sure that the material is being properly inspected? Or, I mean, installed, sorry.
That's I mean, when they do, if we do have them come out, I will have them send one of their senior reps or something to double check it.
Okay.
Again, this was not a project that I personally had done back then. So we're trying to fix it.
Very good question, Commissioner Thompson. Any questions, comments from the board? From the audience? All right. Let us vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
PA4 passes. That completes our formal agenda. Now it is time for public comment following the normal rules and procedures.
I would ask already for a little extra time. There are many, many items. I will speed through them, and I would just ask that you allow me to get through the items that I have.
Name and address for the record, please.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So, Commissioner, I will ask you,
Just go.
I will ask you, do you believe you have the right to put something on the agenda after the Wednesday deadline for the Friday agenda? Do you believe you have the right to do that?
Please continue. I don't even understand the context of this question, so I'm not going to get boxed
I
in.
think you do.
If you want it,
Well, I think you know that the residents on Huntington Road have asked you by letter, by reading it into the meeting, and possibly otherwise, have asked you to put on the agenda the topic today so that that item could be dismissed because it's been sufficiently heard. So I think you do know what I mean. So the next thing I want to get to, I'm just going to whiz through these. There was a complete travesty at Carebrook and the Scout Preserve. I've spoken to Mr. Oles about it, and we have, literally, they were covered with pesticides for absolutely no reason. People still had to come in and take the sprayed vegetation out. So we're not just harming the insects and the birds and the mammals that feed on the insects, but you're also harming the men or women who take the vegetation out. The issue of the approval to put for BET to go to the code enforcement thing is not being dealt with. So this becomes a public affairs matter that rules are being violated, that approval was given to go to one meeting, and yet they are going continually up to their 4th meeting now. So apparently they're going to keep going till everybody drops out and they can pass whatever they pass. I would like to say that I do need to explain to you so you understand what happens. The residents have shared with me what happens when you slow release into the streams and keep the streams constantly wet when a rather more than normal rainstorm comes, those streams are already engorged and cannot take what they should take. So in a normal rain, they're fine, but when you get a bigger rain, they are much more challenged. And these are already people challenged because they happen to live along a stream. They didn't know you were going to keep approving the overdevelopment that you have. If we had a project like the Metaplex, we need to find some kind of legislation that allows people, you know, we do now have a meeting before they go to the zoning committee, but 1 week is not enough. So somehow we need to figure out how to get legislation that is necessary for residents to be able to understand issues before their rights are taken away. The Metaplex went to a zoning hearing 1 week after the residents were told what the heck it was, and they really didn't understand it. So I am concerned about commissioners being told that they cannot recuse themselves, and if they do, they have to give reasons for things, and yet Commissioner Klein walked out of the Salem Baptist discussions and the vote. So he recused himself by simply not being here. Well, that's an issue. I mean, I think we need to know that if he wasn't allowed to recuse himself, I'd like to understand how that's handled.
Just so you know, you're on 2 extra minutes so far. I will give you an
Okay.
additional extra minute.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Just so you know, my father fell and was taken to the hospital by ambulance.
Okay, no, I'm sorry to hear that, but then I would like, no, I am, okay. Yeah,
Continue.
okay.
I
So
absolutely need to get dinner.
Okay, so the other very important thing is that I did ask for the court dates, for upcoming court dates, for instance, for the colonnade. And I was refused the information on those court dates. They actually sent me the day after one date was supposed to be. They sent me a 30-day legal review letter. By that time, who knows how many court dates might pass. I would like to see legislation come from this board that allows residents to know when court dates that they're paying for are taking place, and that we shouldn't have to fight to get that information. Okay, and the last one is Mr. Manfredi said that I had told the public something that wasn't true, that we never do any waivers outside of the public. You just signed an agreement to do millions of dollars of service, potentially millions of service hours, dollars of service hours for our employees without any line item, without any oversight, without any other approval, and also fees that are without any line item, without any oversight or any other approval. That's not okay. And that's not okay for him to say things that aren't true. He was talking about something else perhaps, but
Right.
that
You've now
that
had
is
double
not true.
time, so thank you for your comments.
I appreciate the extra time.
Yes, well.
I have to say something.
Commissioner Myers, why do you and I always go down this rabbit hole?
No, because I think it's
I'm the
so
same way.
simple.
Go.
If a commissioner is not here for a vote for any reason, they are marked, it's absent. It's not, you don't recuse yourself, you're marked absent.
Yes.
Simply.
And we have another member of our public who'd like to speak. Hello. You're
I'm
done.
wait till everybody's listening.
I'm listening.
Okay, thank you. I'm Khaki Evans again at 1132 Lindsay Lane. I do apologize. I wasn't able to attend earlier the Code and Land Use Committee. I'd like to make a recommendation that, and I looked at the people that you're going to appoint to this, and I'm asking if you could consider having one of the people who's appointed be a green building or environmental design accredited professional. I'd like to make that recommendation. And there are different types of accreditations, and I'd be glad to advise you on that. Next Wednesday, our Environmental Advisory Council, we're going to have a speaker on the Ready for 100 program. I'd like to invite all of you and your constituents. And this is a program that helps municipalities transform into 100% clean green energy. So I just wanted to advise you that. I'll send all of you an invitation that you can maybe put in your newsletters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kaki. And I did see there was an email about that. Honestly, I didn't get a chance to read it, but I will look at the Ready for 100. I saw something with Ready for 100. The name jumped out at me. All right, well, that was enlightening. Commissioner Klein.
I did want to make one comment. Andy, I would tell you that I've received many people's response from people about Carebrook, and they are happy with the way things look along Valley Road and having some of those vines being cleaned up.
Thank you. I'm glad some people are noticing. that
You're
it's
welcome.
Cleaning up.
Well, all right then. Manager Manfredi.
If you may, if you
you
indulge
may.
me, indulge me for 30 seconds.
Please.
As everyone knows, we had a public meeting where a brand-new piece of equipment failed, and we had no audio. And the audio we had that was in poor quality actually was an achievement that I want to recognize the guy you never see here anymore, Nathan Vasserman. He did a great job of putting various devices around the room and piecing together with the software so that the public can actually hear what they did hear. So, and that obviously you can see has been replaced, but I just thought he should be recognized for that.
That was very nice, and I will thank him personally. All right. We are adjourned.